A billionaire single dad pretends to be a janitor at his own company to decide who should be the new CEO. And right now, in a glass-walled conference room on the 42nd floor, that janitor stands perfectly still while a man in a $10,000 suit screams in his face. The air smells like fear and expensive cologne. 4 executives sit frozen around the mahogany table, their breath caught somewhere between shock and second-hand embarrassment. None of them move. None of them speak. The overhead lights hum. The city glitters through the windows behind them, indifferent. The man screaming Richard Voss, acting COO. The board's golden boy is red-faced and shaking. He's been yelling for 40 seconds straight. Words like subhuman and invisible, and the kind of nothing person who exists to make me comfortable. His spit flecks the air between them. The janitor doesn't flinch. He stands there in his navy uniform, mop handle still in his left hand, and his eyes, there's something wrong with his eyes. They're too calm, too measured, like he's watching a chess match, not a public humiliation. One of the executives notices it. A woman in her late 30s, dark hair, expensive watch. She leans forward slightly, squinting at the janitor like she's trying to solve an equation that doesn't balance. Because the way he's standing, shoulders square, weight distributed, breathing slow and controlled, that's not how someone getting destroyed is supposed to stand. That's how someone in complete control stands. Voss demands an apology. The janitor opens his mouth to speak, but the voice that comes out doesn't sound like a janitor's voice. It sounds like someone who stood in 1,000 boardrooms and won every single time. "I've been watching all of you," he says quietly, "for 6 months." The woman's eyes go wide. "And I've made my decision. If you believe that true leadership is revealed not when you're being watched, but when you think no one important is looking, stay with this story. Because what happens next will make you question everything you thought you knew about power." Before we begin, hit subscribe and tell me in the comments, have you ever worked for someone who treated you like you were invisible? Let's talk about it. But to understand how we arrived at this moment, a janitor revealing he's been running a 6-month test that will destroy careers and rebuild a company we need to go back to where it started. To a quiet evening when a man with a mop pushed a cleaning cart through empty hallways, and no one knew they were being judged by the person they ignored most. 6 months earlier, the hallways of Apex Technologies were quiet enough to hear the hum of the fluorescent lights. Marcus Chen pushed his cleaning cart past empty offices on the 42nd floor. The wheels squeaked. Motion sensors triggered overhead as he moved through the corridors, casting harsh white light across polished floors and glass walls. He wore a navy uniform with his name stitched on the pocket. Marcus C., not his full name. Just enough to be real. He stopped at the first executive suite and knocked twice. No answer. He entered and began emptying the trash bin beside the desk. Half a sandwich sat abandoned on the credenza. A sticky note on the monitor read, "Per your request," with 3 exclamation points. Someone had drawn a smiley face next to it. The smile looked tight, forced. Marcus moved to the next office, then the next. He observed everything. Papers left face up on desks. Emails visible on unlocked screens. Awards on walls celebrating quarterly earnings and operational excellence. The security guard at the main entrance had waved at him when he clocked in. Didn't look up from his phone. The late-night engineers hunched over keyboards in the open workspace barely registered his presence. He was furniture. Background invisible. That was the point. Marcus paused outside the main boardroom. The walls here were different. Photos lined the corridor in expensive frames, company milestones, product launches, the IPO in 2006. He stopped in front of that one. A younger version of himself stood on the steps of the New York Stock Exchange. His arm was around a woman with dark hair and a smile that reached her eyes. Anna, she'd worn a blue dress that day, told him not to let the money change him. He stared at the photo for 30 seconds. His reflection ghosted over the glass. Salt and pepper hair now. Lines around his eyes that hadn't been there then. Calloused hands that knew mop handles better than boardroom tables. No one walked past. No one noticed the janitor staring at himself. Marcus finished his shift at 11. He drove home in a 10-year-old Honda Civic, no luxury sedan, no driver. The Ballard neighborhood streets were narrow and tree-lined. His townhouse sat between a retired teacher and a young couple with a toddler. Modest, quiet. Exactly what he wanted. The living room light was on. Lily was waiting on the couch, 17 years old and impossibly sharp. Her laptop sat open on the coffee table. Spreadsheets filled the screen, notes in the margins, color-coded cells tracking patterns. "You're late," she said. "Voss worked until 10, Marcus said. He hung his jacket on the hook by the door. Stayed in his office yelling at someone on the phone. About? Quarterly projections. He used the word unacceptable 4 times. Lily typed something. Her fingers moved fast across the keyboard. She wore her mother's silver bracelet. It caught the lamplight as she worked. Marcus sat beside her. The couch cushions sagged. He'd bought this furniture at IKEA 3 years ago. Built it himself with an Allen wrench and instructions that made no sense. "Show me," he said. Lily pulled up her tracking document. 4 columns, 4 names. Richard Voss, Priya Mehta, Daniel Carrington, Jessica Torres. "Voss scored another red flag today," Lily said. She pointed at a cell. "That's 8 this month. Carrington buried the memo like you predicted. Torres is still playing both sides. Priya defended the analyst publicly and took heat from the board." Marcus studied the data. 6 months of observations. Hundreds of small moments captured and categorized. Who stayed late to help junior employees? Who took credit for others' work? Who showed kindness when no one important was watching? "You've been doing this for 6 months, Lily said. Her voice carried an edge. "What if they're all just pretending? What if they know you're watching?" "They don't." "How can you be sure?" "Because no one sees janitors," Marcus said. "We're invisible. That's the advantage." Lily closed the laptop. She turned to face him. Her eyes were dark like Hannah's. Missed nothing like Hannah's. "Mom wouldn't have taken 6 months," she said quietly. "She would have known in 6 minutes." The words landed like stones. Marcus looked at his hands. Rough skin. Broken nails. These weren't the hands of a billionaire. They were the hands of someone who worked. "Your mother saw people clearly," he said. "Better than I ever could. She knew what mattered." "Then why are you still testing them? You already know Priya's the right choice." "I need to be certain." "Dad, I need to see them under real pressure," Marcus said. "Not manufactured tests. Not rehearsed performances. I need to watch them when the stakes are highest and the exits are closing. That's when people show who they really are." Lily was quiet for a moment. The house settled around them, pipes creaking, wind against windows. "What if none of them are good enough?" she asked. "What if you're wasting time while Voss poisons everything?" Marcus had thought about that, late at night when sleep wouldn't come. When he lay in bed and remembered Hannah asking him to choose someone who saw people as human, not resources, not tools, human. "Then I'll know I failed," he said, "but I won't know until I've seen all of it." Lily opened the laptop again. She pulled up a calendar. Tomorrow's date was circled in red. "The budget memo goes out in the morning," she said. "Your first real test." Marcus nodded. He'd drafted that memo himself 3 weeks ago. Leaked it through channels that made it look authentic. Budget cuts coming. One department would have to sacrifice. The candidates would each find it at different times throughout the day. He'd watch how they responded, what they protected, who they told, whether they buried the information or shared it. "So what happens next?" Lily asked. Marcus stood. He walked to the window and looked out at the quiet street. Normal houses, normal lives. No one out here knew who he was, what he'd built, what he'd lost. He thought about Hannah, about her last words, about the promise he'd made. "I turn up the heat," he said. The memo arrived on a Tuesday morning at 3:15. Marcus printed it in the empty copy room on the 39th floor, 2 pages. Official letterhead. A draft announcement about budget reallocations requiring one department to absorb significant cuts. The language was vague enough to feel real, specific enough to cause panic. He left the first copy face up on the printer tray. Then he walked away with his cleaning cart, down the hall where the motion sensors wouldn't trigger. He waited in the dark. Daniel Carrington came for a print job at 3:45. Marcus watched through the gap in the door. Carrington's hand reached for his documents. Paused. Picked up the budget memo instead. He read it standing there. His jaw tightened. He glanced at the doorway. No one around. He folded the memo twice and slipped it into his briefcase under his own papers. Then he collected his print job and left. Marcus waited 5 minutes. He returned to the printer and placed a second copy in the tray. Jessica Torres found it at 6:30 that evening. Marcus was emptying trash bins in the adjacent conference room. He heard her sharp intake of breath. She photographed the memo with her phone. Then she pulled up her calendar and started sending meeting requests. 3 board members. Tomorrow morning. Subject line: Strategic planning discussion. She left the memo on the printer. Marcus replaced it with a third copy at 9:15. Priya Mehta discovered it at 10:45 when she came to print presentation slides. Marcus was mopping the hallway. He heard her voice through the open door. "Oh no." She stood reading for a long time. Then she walked quickly toward the product development wing. Marcus followed at a distance. Priya gathered her team in their workspace. 6 people. Late night, tired faces. "I need to show you something," she said. She laid the memo on the table, explained what it meant, asked for ideas on how to protect their positions and prove their value. Her voice was steady, concerned but not panicked. One of the engineers asked if the other departments knew. "I don't know," Priya said, "but we're not waiting to find out." Marcus moved past the workspace with his cart. No one looked at him. The next morning, Voss called an all-hands meeting for his division. Marcus arrived early to set up chairs. He listened from the back while Voss paced at the front. "I'm hearing concerns about commitment," Voss said. His voice carried across the room. "About people leaving early, taking long lunches. I want to be clear about expectations." His assistant sat in the front row. Young woman. Mid-20s. She'd scheduled the meeting room. "Someone explained to me," Voss continued, "why yesterday's board deck wasn't uploaded until 4 p.m. when I asked for it at noon." The assistant raised her hand slightly. "The file was too large for the system. I had to compress it and—" "That's an excuse," Voss snapped, "not an explanation. The difference matters. One shows me you tried. The other shows me you failed and want credit for trying." The room went still. People stared at their laps. The assistant's face flushed red. "Do better," Voss said. "All of you." He dismissed them. People filed out quickly. The assistant gathered her things with shaking hands. Marcus stayed to break down the chairs. He watched Carrington slip past in the hallway. Watched Torres whisper something to a colleague near the elevator. Watched the assistant wipe her eyes when she thought no one could see. Priya appeared 10 minutes later. She found the assistant at her desk. Marcus was emptying the trash bin 2 cubicles away. "Hey," Priya said quietly. I heard what happened in there. I'm sorry. That wasn't fair. The assistant looked up. It's fine. It's not fine. You work hard. Everyone knows that. The assistant didn't respond. Priya squeezed her shoulder and left. Marcus noted everything. At 2:17 in the morning, his phone buzzed. An email notification. He was lying in bed staring at the ceiling. Lily was asleep down the hall. The email was from Voss, sent to 15 people. Subject: Weekend Deliverables. Marcus opened it. 3 paragraphs demanding a full competitive analysis by Monday morning. No explanation, not context, just the assignment and a deadline that consumed the weekend. He forwarded it to his personal tracking folder. Then he set the phone down and closed his eyes. He picked Lily up from school at 3:30. They drove to the parking garage at Apex, sat on the hood of his Civic with sandwiches from the deli down the street. The concrete smelled like oil and exhaust. Carrington buried it, Marcus said. Didn't tell anyone. Didn't warn his team. Just hid it. Lily took a bite of her sandwich. Coward. Torres went straight to the board. Started positioning herself before anyone else knew there was a game. Politician. Priya told her team immediately. Started planning how to protect them. Lily was quiet for a moment. She's going to lose because she's decent. You know that, right? Marcus looked at his daughter. She wore her mother's bracelet. It caught the dim garage light. Maybe, he said. Dad, you already know she's the one. Why are you still pretending you don't? Because I've narrowed it to 2, not 1. Lily's eyes narrowed. Who's the other? Marcus didn't answer. If it's Voss, I swear it's not Voss. Then who? I need to see them under real pressure, Marcus said. Not tests I design. Real situations where the stakes matter and the choices cost something. That's when people show you who they are. Lily crumpled her sandwich wrapper. What if you're wrong? What if you pick someone who looks good under pressure but falls apart when they actually have power? Then I failed. That's not good enough. It's all I have, Marcus said. They sat in silence. Cars moved on the levels below. Tires on concrete, engines echoing. Mom wouldn't have taken this long, Lily said finally. She would have decided by now. I know. So why can't you? Marcus thought about Hannah, about the way she could look at someone and see past performance straight through to intention. She'd done it with him, seen the cruelty growing in him before he knew it was there, made him change before it was too late. Because I'm not her, Marcus said. I need more time. Lily slid off the hood. If you push too hard, you'll break something you can't fix. 3 weeks passed. The pattern sharpened. Marcus watched. He waited. Then the breach happened. Someone found a vulnerability in Apex's customer database. A security researcher testing systems, no data stolen yet. But the exposure was real. 30 million customer records accessible to anyone who knew where to look. The emergency meeting convened at 11 p.m. on a Thursday. Marcus heard about it through the facility's radio. All 4 candidates summoned. Board members joining remotely. Crisis protocol activated. He pushed his cleaning cart to the 42nd floor. The main conference room glowed with harsh light. Voices carried through the door. Sharp. Tense. He positioned himself in the hallway just outside, close enough to hear. His mop moved in slow circles across the polished floor. Inside, Voss was standing. His voice dominated the room. We issue a statement tomorrow morning. Minimal details. Standard language about taking security seriously and investigating the matter. We do not quantify the exposure. We do not use the word breach. We control the narrative. That's hiding it, Priya said. Her voice was clear. Steady. The researcher already posted about it on Twitter. People know. If we minimize this, we look like we're covering up. We're managing the message, Voss said. There's a difference. We should notify affected users immediately, Priya continued. Full disclosure. What was exposed? What we're doing about it. Offer credit monitoring. Take responsibility. That will crater the stock, Voss snapped. Lying will crater trust. Torres jumped in. Maybe we can find a middle path. Acknowledge the issue but frame it as already resolved. Show strength and transparency without creating panic. Carrington spoke for the first time. Whatever legal recommends. I'm not exposing the company to lawsuits because we got emotional about optics. The debate escalated, voices overlapping. Voss kept returning to stock impact, quarterly earnings, investor confidence. Priya kept returning to customers, people, the right thing to do. Marcus listened. He made mental notes. This was what he'd been waiting for. Real pressure. Real stakes. Choices that revealed character when everything was on the line. His cleaning bucket sat beside him. The wheels were old. One of them didn't lock properly. He'd noticed it earlier but hadn't fixed it. Now he nudged it slightly with his foot while reaching for his mop. The bucket rolled. It moved slowly at first. Then, faster. It crossed the threshold into the conference room doorway just as the debate hit a moment of silence. Water sloshed over the edge, spilled across the floor. The bucket hit the doorframe with a hollow thud. Every head turned. Marcus stepped forward to retrieve it. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I'll clean that up." Voss's face changed. The stress of the crisis, the frustration of the argument, the fear beneath his confidence, it all crystallized into rage, aimed at the easiest target in the room. "Are you kidding me?" Voss's voice cracked like a whip. "Are you actually kidding me right now?" Marcus bent to grab the bucket. "I apologize. It was an accident. An accident." Voss moved toward him. "We're in here trying to save this company from a disaster, and you're out there playing with your little bucket? Do you have any idea what's happening in this room? I'll just get this cleaned up and you're subhuman." The word hung in the air. "That's what you are. You're the kind of nothing person who exists to make me comfortable, to keep the floors clean and the trash empty so people like us can do real work, and you can't even do that without interrupting." The room went dead quiet. Board members stared from the video screens. Torres shifted in her seat. Carrington's eyes locked on his laptop. Priya's mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. Marcus stood holding the bucket. His jaw was tight, his breathing controlled. He met Voss's eyes for 3 seconds. Then he looked down. "You're right," Marcus said. "I apologize for the disruption. Get out." Marcus left. He pushed his cart down the hallway. His hands didn't shake, not yet. That would come later. Behind him, the meeting resumed. Voices muted, uncomfortable. Voss giving orders like nothing had happened. Marcus reached the supply closet. He stood there in the dark, breathing, thinking. Footsteps approached. Light. Quick. A woman's shoes. Priya appeared in the doorway. Her face was stricken. "He shouldn't have spoken to you like that," she said. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper. "I'm sorry. That was wrong." Marcus looked at her. "It's okay. It's not okay. Nothing about that was okay." "Thank you," Marcus said. She hesitated like she wanted to say more. Then she nodded and returned to the conference room. Marcus finished his shift, drove home through empty streets, parked in his driveway, sat in the dark car with the engine off. His hands started shaking then. Not from fear, not from humiliation, from recognition. He saw himself at 35, building Apex with brutal efficiency, yelling at employees who made mistakes, treating people as obstacles to his vision instead of humans with lives and fears and worth beyond their productivity. He'd used different words than Voss, more professional language. But the message was the same. Know your place. Don't interrupt the important people. Hannah had seen it. She'd watched him become that person. She'd almost left because of it. Then she'd saved him, made him work 6 months in customer service, made him hear what his decisions sounded like to the people on the receiving end, made him understand that power without empathy was just cruelty with a business card. Voss was who Marcus would have become without Hannah. The same drive, the same intelligence, the same hollow cruelty dressed up as leadership. Marcus's breath fogged the windshield. The night pressed against the glass. He thought about the promise he'd made to Hannah in the hospice bed. Choose someone who sees people, not as tools, not as background, as human. He'd watched Priya follow him out, watched her apologize when it cost her nothing, when no one would have blamed her for staying silent. She'd done it because it was right, because she couldn't sit there and pretend that was acceptable. Carrington had avoided it. Torres had smiled that tight professional smile that meant not my problem. Voss had delivered it. Only Priya had stood up. Marcus closed his eyes. The shaking stopped. His breathing steadied. He whispered into the empty car, "Hannah, I almost became him." Marcus sat in the dark living room when Lily got home from school the next day. The curtains were closed, no lights on. A cardboard box sat open on the coffee table. Photos spilled across the surface. Lily knew this mood. She'd seen it before. Always on hard days, days when the weight of missing her mother became too much to carry, standing up. She dropped her backpack by the door, sat beside him on the couch without saying anything. The house smelled like old paper and dust. Marcus held a photo in his hands. Hannah at her desk, 20 years younger. Dark hair pulled back, laughing at something off camera. The photo was creased at the edges from being held too many times. "I need to tell you something," Marcus said quietly. "About your mother. About who I was before her." Lily waited. "I was 32 when I started Apex," Marcus began. "Working 18-hour days, 7 days a week. I had this vision of building something that mattered, something that would change how people worked, make technology more human." He set the photo down, picked up another. Marcus and Hannah at a company event, both in their 30s. Marcus looked thinner, harder. Eyes that didn't smile even when his mouth did. But somewhere in year 5, I forgot why I started. The company grew. The pressure grew. I started treating people like they were problems to solve instead of humans, with families and lives and fears. Marcus's voice was steady but low, like he was confessing something he'd kept locked away too long. "Your mother worked at Apex then. We'd been dating for 3 years. She was a program manager, brilliant at her job, and she watched me become someone she didn't recognize." He paused. The house settled around them, quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. "In 2003, she almost left me." Lily's head turned. "What?" "She gave me an ultimatum. Remember why you started this, or I'm gone." Those were her exact words. Marcus set down the photo, reached for another buried deeper in the box. A badge. Old, laminated plastic. Customer Service Department. A fake name Marcus had never told Lily about. "She made me work 6 months in our own customer service call center. Anonymous, nobody knew who I was. I answered phones 8 hours a day, listened to customers complain about policies I'd created, heard them talk about features I'd cut to save money, experienced what my decisions felt like from the bottom." His fingers traced the edge of the badge. "One day a woman called. She was crying. She'd been trying to reach our support team for 3 weeks. Her small business was failing because our software had a bug we hadn't prioritized fixing. She had 2 employees she was about to lay off. She kept apologizing to me for being emotional, like her pain was an inconvenience." Marcus's jaw tightened. "I'd seen the bug report. I'd personally marked it as low priority because it only affected 0.2% of users. The math made sense. The business case was clear. But I never thought about the actual humans in that 0.2%. He looked at Lily. His eyes were wet. Your mother knew what I was becoming. She saw it before I did. She saved me, made me rebuild the entire culture at Apex, made me remember that people aren't resources or assets or percentages. They're people. Lily's throat felt tight. She'd heard stories about her mother, but never this. Never the truth about what Hannah had done. We got married in 2005, Marcus continued. You were born in 2009. Best years of my life. Your mother kept me grounded, kept me human. And then, he didn't need to finish. Lily remembered 2016, the diagnosis, the hospital visits, the way her mother got smaller and quieter until she wasn't there anymore. 18 months, Marcus whispered. That's what we had. 18 months of fighting and hoping and pretending we had more time. The room felt smaller, darker. The last day. At the hospice, she could barely talk, but she made me promise something. Marcus reached into the box, pulled out a folded piece of paper, old, worn. He opened it carefully. Hannah's handwriting. Shaky but readable. Don't choose a brilliant monster. Choose someone who sees people, even if they're not the smartest person in the room. Promise me. Lily read it twice, her vision blurred. She touched her mother's bracelet on her wrist. That's why you're doing this, she said. Her voice cracked. That's why you're spending 6 months mopping floors and getting humiliated. You're keeping a promise to Mom. Marcus nodded. I'm trying. But Dad, Lily wiped her eyes. You already know Priya's the right choice. You said it yourself. Why are you still testing them? Because I need to be sure she can survive, Marcus said. Your mother didn't just want me to choose someone good. She wanted me to choose someone strong enough to protect what they build. Someone who won't break when people like Voss come after them. Lily looked at the photos spread across the table. Her mother's face in different moments, different years. Always the same kind eyes. Tonight I saw myself in Voss, Marcus said quietly. The way he talks to people. The way he sees them as beneath him. That was me. Before your mother fixed me. And now he's going to try to fire me. Make an example out of me. And I'm going to let him. Because I need to see what happens next. What if nothing happens? Lily asked. What if nobody stands up for you? Then I'll know I failed, that the culture I tried to build died with your mother, and I'll have to start over. Lily was quiet for a long moment. She reached into the box, found a photo of herself as a baby, her mother holding her, smiling that real smile that reached her eyes. She would have hated this plan, Lily said. You know that, right? She would have told you to stop playing games and just pick Priya. I know. But she also would have understood why you're doing it. Marcus looked at his daughter. 17 years old and carrying wisdom that shouldn't fit in someone so young. Anna lived in her. In the way she saw through complexity to truth. In the way she wouldn't let him hide from hard things. So, what are you going to do about Voss? Lily asked. Marcus found out about the complaint the same way everyone else did. An email at 7 in the morning, forwarded to 12 people, HR director, facilities management, the janitorial contractor, department heads, all copied for maximum visibility. Subject: Formal Incident Report Employee Misconduct. The body was 3 paragraphs of corporate language. Disruption of critical business operations. Failure to maintain professional boundaries. Eavesdropping on confidential executive discussions. The language was precise. Legal. Designed to create a paper trail that justified termination. Marcus read it on his phone while sitting at the kitchen table. Lily was eating cereal across from him. She looked up when his face changed. What? He turned the phone around. She read it. Her jaw tightened. "He's trying to get you fired." "Yes. Are you going to stop him?" "No." Lily set down her spoon. "Dad, this is insane. You own the company. You can end this with one phone call." "I need to see what happens next," Marcus said quietly. "Who stands up? Who stays silent? Who chooses safety over what's right?" "What if nobody stands up?" Marcus didn't answer. He finished his coffee, got ready for his shift. The question hung in the air between them like smoke. At Apex, the complaint spread through the support staff within hours. Marcus heard fragments of conversation in the break room, near the loading dock, in the supply closets where custodial workers stored their equipment. That janitor got written up by Voss. The COO himself must have really messed up. "I heard he was eavesdropping on a meeting." "No, I heard he talked back." Either way, he's done. Nobody survives a complaint from Voss. Fear moved through the building like cold air. People kept their heads down, worked faster, spoke less. The message was clear. Know your place. Don't make waves. Executives have power, and you don't. The facilities manager called Marcus in on Tuesday afternoon. Small office, narrow windows. The man looked uncomfortable, caught between contractor protocols that required investigation and executive pressure that demanded immediate action. "I'm scheduling a termination meeting for Friday morning," he said. He wouldn't meet Marcus's eyes. 9 a.m. HR will be present. You'll have a chance to respond to the allegations. "Understood," Marcus said. "Look, I don't." The manager trailed off. Started again. "This feels excessive for what happened. But my hands are tied. Voss is COO. When someone at that level files a complaint, we have to act." Marcus nodded, said nothing, left the office. His job was genuinely at risk now. The machinery of corporate hierarchy was grinding toward his termination, and he was letting it happen, watching to see who would step forward when the cost was real. Daniel Carrington heard about the complaint Tuesday evening. Marcus saw him in the parking garage talking to another executive. Carrington's face showed brief concern, then calculation, then nothing. He got in his car and drove away. Not his problem, not his risk. Silence was safer. Jessica Torres heard Wednesday morning. Marcus was emptying trash near her office when she took a call. He heard her side of the conversation through the open door. "I know. It does seem like overkill. But what am I supposed to do? Go to bat for a janitor who interrupted a crisis meeting? That's not a hill I'm dying on. Voss is already suspicious of me. I'm not giving him more ammunition." She hung up, closed her door, made her choice. Priya heard Wednesday afternoon. Marcus was mopping the 42nd floor hallway when he saw her coming out of a team meeting. Her face was pale, tight. She walked directly to Voss's office. Marcus positioned himself near the supply closet, close enough to hear, far enough to seem invisible. "Richard, I need to talk to you about the complaint you filed." Voss's voice carried through the half-open door. "What about it? I think you should withdraw it." The janitor apologized. "It was an accident. This feels disproportionate." "It's about standards, Priya. About respect for hierarchy and proper workplace conduct. It's about a cleaning bucket that rolled into a doorway. It's about knowing your place." Voss's tone sharpened. "That man needs to learn there are consequences for disrupting people who are doing actual important work. He's a person, not a lesson." This conversation is over. Priya stood there for 3 seconds. Then she left. Walked straight to HR on the 43rd floor. Marcus followed at a distance. Watched her through the glass walls as she sat with the HR director. Saw her speaking earnestly, gesturing, making her case. 20 minutes later she emerged. Her face said everything. HR had thanked her for her input, noted her concerns. explained that the complaint process had to run its course. Voss was COO. She was VP of product. The hierarchy was clear. Priya had just sacrificed political capital to defend a janitor, and it had accomplished nothing. Marcus went home that night and told Lily everything. They sat in the kitchen, the same place they always talked. The house was quiet around them. She went to Voss, Marcus said, asked him to withdraw it. When he refused, she went to HR and filed a counterstatement defending me. Did it work? No. But she did it anyway, even though it hurt her chances, even though nobody else spoke up. Lily leaned back in her chair. Her mother's bracelet caught the overhead light. So you've decided. It's Priya. I decided weeks ago. Then why are you still doing this? Why are you letting Voss push this termination through? Marcus looked at his daughter, 17 years old, sharp enough to see through complexity to simple truth, just like Hannah. Because being right isn't enough, he said. I need to know if she can survive what comes next, if she can handle the pressure when Voss and people like him come after her, when doing the right thing costs everything. What if she can't? Then I chose wrong, but I need to know. Lily was quiet for a moment. Then she asked the question Marcus had been asking himself. What if this breaks her? What if you push too hard and the person you're trying to protect gets destroyed in the process? Marcus didn't have an answer. Not one that felt honest, so he said nothing. The next morning Marcus clocked in for his shift. The building felt different, colder. People averted their eyes when he walked past. The complaint had marked him, made him untouchable, a warning to others about what happened when you forgot your place. He was mopping the executive wing when he heard Voss's voice. Loud, confident, talking to someone Marcus couldn't see. Friday morning, 9 a.m. We're handling this properly. Documentation. Witnesses. Everything by the book 1915,000 going to teach this company what accountability looks like. The paranoia started Monday morning. Voss called an unscheduled HR meeting. Marcus heard about it through the facilities network. Badge access logs being reviewed. Email audits requested. Questions about who had been in proximity to executive conversations during after-hours shifts. Someone was leaking information. Voss was certain. He didn't know who, but he was going to find out. By Tuesday afternoon, 3 support staff had been pulled into private interviews. Security personnel, night shift IT technicians, 1 administrative assistant who'd worked late the previous week. The questions were the same. Had they overheard executive discussions? Had they shared any information with anyone outside their immediate team? Did they know of anyone who had? The building felt different, tighter. People moved with their heads down. Conversations stopped when executives walked past. The message was clear. You're being watched. Be careful. Marcus's janitorial contractor called him Wednesday morning. The supervisor's voice was tense. Chen, I need you to be extra careful right now. Keep your head down. Don't go near any meetings. Don't linger in executive areas. Voss is on a witch hunt and we can't afford to lose this contract. Understood, Marcus said. I'm serious. You've already got 1 complaint against you. Another incident and I can't protect you. Marcus promised to be careful. Then he went to work exactly as he had before. Wednesday night, the crisis emerged naturally. No engineering needed. Marcus was restocking supplies on the product development floor when he heard raised voices in Priya's office. He slowed his cart, positioned himself near the supply closet 30 feet away. A senior engineer was resigning. Elena Park, 10 years with Apex, lead architect on 3 major product lines. She'd received an offer from a competitor. Substantial raise. Better title. She was giving 2 weeks' notice effective immediately. The news reached all 4 candidates within the hour. Voss's response came via email. Marcus read it over the engineer's shoulder as she sat at her desk, stunned. Let her go. Start the search for a replacement immediately. Target salary band 20% below her current compensation. We can hire hungry talent for less and get better output. Carrington's response came through Priya's manager. Counter offer within budget parameters. Match the title. Add 5% to salary. Standard retention package. Do it by Friday or move on. Torres scheduled a meeting with Priya for Thursday morning. Marcus emptied the trash in the adjacent conference room while they talked through the glass walls. If you can keep her, Torres said, make sure it's visible. We need a win right now. Show the board you can retain top talent. I'll mention it in my next update. Priya's expression was unreadable. What if she needs more than visibility? Then give her what she needs, within reason. But make sure people know it was your leadership that kept her. Torres left. Priya sat alone for 5 minutes. Then she walked to Elena's desk. Marcus watched from across the floor. He couldn't hear the conversation, but he saw Priya pull up a chair, saw them talk for 90 minutes, saw Elena's shoulders drop, saw her eyes get wet, saw Priya hand her a tissue. No raise, no promotion, no grand gesture. 2 days later, Elena withdrew her resignation. Marcus learned why Friday night. He was emptying trash near the break room when Elena told another engineer what happened. She asked me why I was really leaving. Not the recruiter answer. The real reason. And I told her. I've been here 10 years, and I feel invisible, like I'm just a resource. A line item, nobody asks what I think anymore. They just tell me what to build. And Priya changed that. She restructured the whole team dynamic. Gave me ownership of the architecture roadmap, real ownership, not just input. She said my judgment is what matters, that I've earned that trust. And she meant it. Elena's voice cracked slightly. Nobody's offered me that. Not here. Not at the other company. They offered me money and a title. She offered me respect. Marcus moved on. Pushed his cart down the hallway. The fluorescent lights hummed above him. He knew with absolute certainty now. Priya was the only one who led like Hannah would have. The only one who understood that people aren't problems to solve or assets to manage. They're human. And humans need to feel seen. But he also saw what that choice had cost her. Voss now viewed her as a rival who'd poached a resignation back through weakness. Torres had distanced herself after Priya refused to make it about visibility. Carrington had aligned himself with Voss completely, attending his meetings, echoing his language, seeking safety in the shadow of power. Priya was isolated, the target on her back growing larger every day. Marcus finished his rounds at 11. He reached Priya's office last. The light was still on. She sat at her desk, staring at her computer screen. Her face was drawn, exhausted. Dark circles under her eyes. He knocked lightly on the doorframe. She looked up. "I'm just emptying the trash," Marcus said. "I can come back." "No, it's fine. Come in." He entered, pulled the bag from her waste bin, replaced it with a fresh one. Priya watched him. Then she spoke. "Can I ask you something?" Marcus straightened. "Of course. Do you like your job?" The question surprised him. He considered it carefully. "It's honest work. But do people respect you, see you, or are you just background?" Marcus met her eyes. "Most people don't see me at all." Priya nodded slowly. "I'm sorry, that's not right. It's not your fault." "No, but it's still not right." She was quiet for a moment. The office felt small, private. A place where real things could be said. "I don't think I'm going to get the CEO job," Priya said. Her voice was soft but steady. "The board wants someone like Voss, someone who maximizes quarterly returns and makes hard decisions without hesitation. I'm not that person." "What kind of person are you?" Marcus asked. "The kind who thinks Elena Park matters as much as the stock price. The kind who believes people do their best work when they're valued, not managed. My daughter asks me what kind of leader I am. I need to give her an answer I'm proud of. Marcus gripped the trash bag in his hands. Hannah's words. Almost exactly. Different voice. Same truth. That sounds like a good answer, he said quietly. Maybe. But it's not the answer that wins elections. Priya turned back to her computer. Marcus left. Walked through the empty hallways with his cart. The building was silent except for the hum of the HVAC system and the soft squeak of his cartwheels. He drove home. Lily was still awake. Sitting on the couch with her laptop, working on college applications. Marcus sat beside her. Told her about Elena. About Priya's conversation. About the choice she'd made and what it had cost her. Lily closed her laptop. So you've decided. I decided weeks ago. Then why are you still mopping floors? Marcus looked at his daughter. Hannah's eyes staring back at him. Sharp. Direct. Uncompromising. Because I need to be absolutely certain she can handle what I'm about to give her. The meeting was scheduled for 9 a.m. on Friday. Marcus received the official notice Thursday afternoon. A formal email. Conference Room B on the 43rd floor. Required attendees listed. Marcus Chen, Employee ID 8847, HR Director Sarah Kim, Facilities Contractor Manager Tom Walsh. Optional attendees Richard Voss, Priya Mehta, Jessica Torres, Daniel Carrington. Optional meant mandatory when Voss sent the invitation. Marcus arrived at 8:55. He wore his Navy uniform, his name badge clipped to his chest. He carried nothing else. The conference room was small. Gray walls. Long table. 8 chairs. Windows overlooking the city. Morning light slanted across the polished surface. Voss sat at the head of the table. Expensive suit. Rolex watch catching the light. His posture was relaxed, confident. A man in complete control. The HR director sat to his right, nervous. Files stacked in front of her. The facilities contractor manager sat across from her. Uncomfortable. Out of place among executives. The 3 other candidates occupied the remaining seats. Carrington studied his phone. Torres looked bored. Priya sat with her hands folded on the table. Her face was pale. Marcus entered. Everyone turned to look at him. "Come in," Voss said. His voice was pleasant, professional. "Take a seat there." He gestured to the chair at the opposite end of the table. The position of the accused. Marcus sat. Voss let the silence extend. 3 seconds. 5. Establishing dominance through comfort with stillness. "Thank you all for being here," Voss began. He looked at each person in turn. "This is an unfortunate situation. But it's also an important teaching moment about standards, accountability, and the expectations we maintain at Apex Technologies." He opened a folder, pulled out a printed document. Marcus Chen. Employed through Clearview Facilities Management. Badge number 8847. You've been with us for approximately 6 months. Voss looked up. "Is that correct?" "Yes," Marcus said. "During that time, you've received generally satisfactory performance reviews from your direct supervisor. However, on the evening of November 9th, you disrupted a critical executive meeting during a security crisis. Is that also correct?" "I accidentally bumped my cleaning bucket. It rolled into the doorway. I apologized immediately." "And did you or did you not overhear confidential discussions during that meeting?" "I was in the hallway. The door was open." Voss made a note. "Since that incident, there have been additional concerns. Reports of you lingering near executive offices during after-hours shifts, being present in areas where sensitive conversations were taking place, creating a pattern of behavior that suggests deliberate eavesdropping." Marcus said nothing. "Do you understand?" Voss continued. that there are hierarchies in every organization, that people have roles, that a custodial worker does not have access to executive-level information and should not position himself to overhear such information. "I understand hierarchies," Marcus said quietly. "Then you understand why we're here." Voss closed the folder. "Mr. Captor, Walsh, the termination paperwork has been prepared. Unless Mr. Chen has something to say in his defense, we'll proceed with the separation today, effective immediately." The facilities contractor looked at Marcus, apologetic but powerless. Marcus remained still. "Do you have anything you'd like to say?" Voss asked. Marcus let the question hang. He looked at each person in the room, Voss performing authority, the HR director following protocol, the contractor caught in the machinery, Carrington carefully neutral, Torres calculating the politics, Priya her jaw tight. Then Marcus spoke. November 3rd. Daniel Carrington found a confidential memo about budget reallocations. He read it. Then he buried it in his briefcase without telling his team. They found out 3 days later through other channels. Carrington's eyes snapped up from his phone. Marcus continued. His voice was calm, measured. November 7th. Jessica Torres presented the Q4 Innovation Roadmap to the board. She took credit for the distributed computing framework, never mentioned that 3 engineers on her team designed it. Their names don't appear anywhere in the presentation. Torres straightened in her chair. Her expression shifted. November 15th. Richard Voss sent an email at 2:17 a.m. demanding a competitive analysis by Monday morning. No context, no explanation. Just an order that consumed 15 people's weekends. Voss's hand stopped moving on his notepad. November 20th. Priya Mehta spent 90 minutes talking to Elena Park, a senior engineer planning to resign. She didn't offer a raise, didn't offer a promotion. She restructured team dynamics to give Elena real ownership. Elena withdrew her resignation 2 days later. Priya's eyes widened, understanding washing over her face like cold water. Marcus kept talking. 6 months of observations delivered in precise detail. Private meetings quoted verbatim. Patterns of behavior described with intimate knowledge. Things no janitor should know. Things only someone with complete access would know. The room had gone completely still. How Torres started, then stopped. Her face showed betrayal, calculation, fear. Voss leaned forward, his composure cracking. "Who the hell are you? Who are you reporting to?" "I'm not reporting to anyone," Marcus said. "This is corporate espionage. I don't know how you gained access to confidential information, but I promise you—" "I didn't gain access," Marcus interrupted quietly. "I've always had it." He reached into his uniform pocket, pulled out a badge, different from the one he wore. Older. Official. Marcus placed it on the conference table, slid it toward the center. The badge was laminated plastic, a photo from years ago, 3 lines of text below it. Marcus Chen, founder and majority shareholder. Apex Technologies. Nobody moved, nobody breathed. The silence in the room was total. Priya's hand covered her mouth, her eyes filled with tears. Torres stood halfway out of her chair, then sat back down. Pale. Carrington looked like he might vomit. The HR director's files slipped from her hands, papers scattered across the table. Voss stared at the badge, then at Marcus, then at the badge again. All the color drained from his face. The silence lasted 3 seconds. Then the room detonated. Torres shot to her feet. Her chair scraped backward across the floor. Her face showed betrayal first, then calculation, then fear. Every conversation she'd had near the janitor, every complaint she'd whispered to colleagues, every performance she'd staged for an audience she thought was invisible, He'd heard all of it. Carrington sat frozen. His skin had gone gray. One hand gripped the edge of the table. The other pressed against his stomach like he might be sick. He'd buried the memo. He'd aligned with Voss. He'd chosen safety over integrity at every turn. And the founder had been watching. The HR director stared at the badge on the table. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. No sound came out. Priya's eyes were wet. She wasn't crying from shock. She was crying from understanding. Every vulnerable moment in her office, every confession to the janitor who listened, every word about her daughter and leadership and staying true to herself, even when it cost everything. She'd revealed her soul to the man who would decide her fate. Voss found his voice first. He stood, straightened his jacket. His face was still pale, but his jaw was set. Years of corporate combat reflexes kicking in. "This is inappropriate," Voss said. His voice was tight, controlled. "Whatever you think you've accomplished here, this is corporate espionage. Deception. The board will never accept this. My lawyers—" Marcus raised one hand. The gesture was small, quiet, but Voss stopped mid-sentence. "Sit down, Richard," Marcus said. The command in his voice wasn't loud. It was something deeper. The voice of someone who'd built this company from nothing and still owned most of it. Voss sat. Marcus stood. He moved to the center of the room. His uniform looked out of place among the suits and polished furniture. But his presence filled the space in a way that made everything else seem small. "I'm going to address each of you," Marcus said. "Then I'm going to make a decision. The decision I came here to make." He turned to Voss first. "Richard, your cruelty disqualified you months ago. The way you speak to people, the way you use hierarchy as a weapon, the way you treat anyone beneath you as less than human. Your employment with Apex Technologies is terminated effective immediately. Security will escort you out within the hour." Voss's face went red. "You can't. I control 51% of voting shares. The board has no choice. You're done." Voss stood again. His composure shattered. "This is insane. You've been lying for 6 months, playing games. The board will fight this. I'll fight this. My lawyers will do nothing," Marcus said quietly. "Because I own this company, and I've decided you don't belong in it." The air went out of Voss. His shoulders sagged. For a moment he looked smaller, younger, like the working-class kid he'd been before he clawed his way up and learned to despise where he came from. Then the moment passed. Voss grabbed his briefcase, stormed toward the door, stopped with his hand on the handle. "This company was nothing before I took over operations," Voss said. "Margins up 15%. Efficiency optimized. You're making a mistake." "No," Marcus said. "I made the mistake when I let you get this far. I'm correcting it." Voss left. The door slammed behind him. The sound echoed in the small room. Marcus turned to Carrington. "Daniel, you've been with this company for 20 years. You're competent, reliable. You know the systems better than almost anyone." Marcus paused. "But competence without courage is uselessness. You'll remain VP of operations. You'll do good work. But you will never lead this company. Because leadership requires standing up when it costs something. And you've never done that once." Carrington's voice was small. "I understand." He didn't argue, didn't defend himself, just nodded. Accepting judgment. Humiliated but not surprised. Marcus moved to Torres. "Jessica, you're talented, visionary. You understand where technology is going better than most people in this industry." He looked directly at her. "But ambition is necessary, but insufficient. You need to decide if you're building a career or building something that matters. If you're performing for recognition or actually creating value. I'll revisit your candidacy in 2 years. If you can show me you've learned to see people, actually see them, We'll have this conversation again." Torres stood. She looked at Marcus, then at Priya. Something passed across her face. Recognition. Maybe respect. Maybe just calculation about her next move. She walked out without saying a word. The room felt larger now. Quieter. Just Marcus, Priya, and the two other witnesses who hadn't moved or spoken. Marcus walked to where Priya sat. He pulled out the chair beside her. Sat down. Not at the head of the table. Not in the power position. Beside her. As an equal. "Priya," he said gently. Her hands were shaking. She gripped them together on the table. Tried to steady her breathing. "You made this decision easy and impossible," Marcus continued. "Easy because you're the only candidate who passed the test. Impossible because I'm about to give you the hardest job in the world." Priya looked at him, tears still wet on her face. "I'm naming you CEO of Apex Technologies. Effective immediately, pending board approval, which I'll ensure." The HR director made a small sound. Shock. Maybe protest. Marcus ignored her. Priya's voice was barely a whisper. "Why me?" Marcus reached into his other pocket, pulled out a folded piece of paper. Old, worn. He opened it carefully, handed it to Priya. She read the handwriting. The note. The promise. "Don't choose a brilliant monster. Choose someone who sees people, even if they're not the smartest person in the room. Promise me." Priya's breath caught. "6 months ago, my wife asked me to choose someone who sees people," Marcus said. "You're the only one who does. The way you defended me to Voss. The way you went to HR even though it cost you politically. The way you talked to Elena Park for 90 minutes and gave her ownership instead of money. The way you told me your daughter asks what kind of leader you are." He paused. "You're the kind of leader who sees people as human, not resources, not tools. Human, that's rare. That's what this company needs. That's what I promised my wife I would choose." Priya was fully crying now, not from sadness, from the weight of understanding, from terror and honor colliding in her chest. "I don't know if I can do this," she whispered. "Neither do I," Marcus said honestly, "but I believe you're the only one who should try." Priya wiped her eyes, sat straighter. Her jaw set. She looked at Marcus and nodded once. Accepting. The HR director finally found her voice. "Mr. Chen, the board will need to review. The board will approve my decision," Marcus said without looking at her. "Schedule the emergency meeting for Monday. I'll be there." He stood. Looked at Priya one more time. "What happens now?" Priya asked. Marcus's expression softened. Just slightly. "Now we find out if I chose right." The attacks started within hours. Voss didn't wait. He didn't process. He struck. By Saturday morning, 3 tech news sites had published stories, citing anonymous sources about Marcus Chen's erratic behavior and cruel psychological experiment on his own executives. The headlines were damaging. Founder returns in disguise to manipulate leadership race. Billionaire's mental health questioned after 6-month deception. Apex Technologies in crisis as Chen appoints unqualified CEO. The board called an emergency meeting for Monday morning. Marcus attended. So did Priya. She sat at the conference table in a suit that didn't quite fit her yet. Her hands were folded. Her face was composed, but Marcus could see the fear beneath the surface. 12 board members. 8 wanted to override Marcus's decision. 4 supported it. The meeting lasted 6 hours. Marcus didn't argue. He didn't defend. He simply stated facts. He controlled 51% of voting shares. Priya was CEO. The board could accept it or resign. 3 board members resigned that day. Marcus stayed visible after that. No more hiding, no more janitor uniforms. He worked with Priya openly as her advisor, attended executive meetings, fielded calls from angry investors, shielded her from the worst of it while she learned to lead. The first 3 months were brutal. Priya made mistakes. approved a product feature that had to be rolled back, mishandled a negotiation with a key partner, froze during a board presentation when a member challenged her authority. Marcus watched her nearly break, watched her sit in her office after a particularly vicious board meeting, hands shaking, tears threatening. He sat beside her, didn't offer empty reassurance, just waited. "I don't know if I can do this," Priya whispered. "You can," Marcus said, "but you have to decide if you will." She looked at him. "What's the difference? Surrender is when you give up because it's too hard. Compromise is when you adapt without losing who you are. You need to learn which is which." Priya wiped her eyes, straightened, went back to work. The company began to stabilize in month 4. Priya's leadership style started to take hold. She admitted mistakes publicly, restructured teams based on capability rather than politics, held town halls where employees could ask anything. The culture shifted slowly, carefully. People began to trust her. Carrington left that same month, quietly, professionally, took a CEO position at a smaller company. Marcus wrote him a recommendation that was honest about his strengths and limitations, generous but not dishonest. Torres requested a meeting 6 months after the reveal. Marcus agreed. They met in a coffee shop near the office, neutral territory. Torres looked different, less polished, more uncertain. "I've been thinking about what you said," Torres began, "about building a career versus building something that matters." Marcus waited. "I spent 6 months furious at you. Then I spent 6 months looking at what I'd actually accomplished, the teams I'd led, the people I'd worked with." She paused. "I couldn't name anyone whose career I'd actually helped. I could only name people I'd used as stepping stones." "That's a hard thing to see," Marcus said. "Is the door really not closed?" "It's not closed. But I need to see change through action, not words. Come back in 18 months if you've rebuilt how you lead." Torres nodded. Left. Marcus didn't know if she'd actually change, but he'd given her the chance. 1 year after the reveal, Marcus stood in the back of the auditorium for Priya's first annual shareholders meeting as CEO. The room was full, 300 people. Investors, employees, media. Priya stood at the podium. She looked nervous, but grounded. Present, her speech was about responsibility, about purpose, about the difference between building value and extracting it. She talked about employee retention, cultural metrics, sustainable growth. She sounded exactly like Hannah used to sound when she'd challenge Marcus on his priorities. The meeting went well. Stock was up 12%. Culture surveys showed the highest employee satisfaction in company history. Retention numbers were the best they'd been in a decade. Afterward, people congratulated Priya. Board members who'd opposed her now nodded approval. Investors shook her hand. She handled it with grace and humility. Marcus waited near the exit. Priya found him as the crowd thinned. "How did I do?" she asked. "You did well. I was terrified the entire time." "I know, but you didn't let it stop you. That's what matters." A teenage girl approached, maybe 15, dark hair, shy smile. Priya's daughter. "Mom, we should go. Grandma's waiting for dinner." Priya introduced them. "Marcus, this is my daughter Anaya. Anaya, this is Marcus Chen." The girl's eyes widened. Recognition. Then she stepped forward and hugged Marcus. Brief but fierce. "Thank you for believing in my mom when no one else did," Anaya said. Marcus's throat tightened. He saw Hannah in that moment, saw the generational ripple of choosing someone who leads with integrity, saw what happens when power is given to people who use it to lift others. "Your mother earned it," Marcus said quietly, "every day." They left. Marcus watched them go, mother and daughter, walking into their future, the company secure in the right hands. That evening, Marcus picked up Lily from a friend's house. They drove to the cemetery in silence. The sun was setting. orange light filtering through Seattle clouds. Hannah's grave sat beneath a maple tree. Simple stone, her name. The dates, nothing ornate. She wouldn't have wanted that. Marcus and Lily stood together. The grass was wet from recent rain. The air smelled like earth and leaves. "You did it," Lily said. "You did what Mom wanted." "I almost chose wrong," Marcus said. "So many times. I doubted myself constantly." Lily smiled. The same smile Hannah used to have when she was about to say something true and uncomfortable. "That's how you know you were doing it right. Anyone who's certain isn't really looking." Marcus looked at his daughter, 17 years old, carrying her mother's wisdom, her mother's clarity, her mother's way of seeing through complexity to simple truth. "Your mother would be proud of you," Marcus said. "She'd be proud of both of us." They stood in silence as the sun dropped below the horizon. The sky turned purple, then dark blue. Stars appeared between clouds. Marcus spoke to Hannah the way he always did when he visited, quietly, internally. But this time the words felt different. Complete. "I finally understand what you tried to teach me. Power is only meaningful when you give it to someone who'll use it to lift others. I found her, Hannah. I found the person you wanted me to choose, and she's going to be better than I ever was." Lily took his hand. Her fingers were warm, strong. She wore Hannah's bracelet. It caught the last light of the day. They walked back to the car together, father and daughter. The test complete. The promise kept. The future secure in the right hands. True leadership is revealed not in how people perform when watched, but in who they become when they believe no one important is looking.